You know, as an artist, I find the look of a game very important. Games like Grease, Celeste, and Hyperlight Drifter are some of my all-time favorites. They use the visuals to coerce us into buying their game. They're like, look how beautiful our artwork is. Look how great our game looks. Oh, look how pretty we are. Ooh, aren't we doing something different? We're so unique. We're so quirky. They're manipulating us. They have no reason for unique design besides marketing and capitalistic greed. Hey fellas, my name's Lee. Welcome to the Fruit Basket. But really, even if these games are using their unique visuals to lure us in, it can still totally be a valid reason for interest. And honestly, I don't think it usually is a marketing ploy or a look how quirky I am. I think most of the time, it's people who want to make good art and try new things. So when does stylization work? When is it justified? One game that really did work just due to the sheer greatness of its stylization is Grease. Now, if you watch this channel, then you know it was love at first sight for me. I saw the trailer and started ranting about this game, and I haven't stopped after several playthroughs. What this game may lack in difficulty and length, it more than makes up for in being a freaking masterpiece. This game is just a serene stroll through a perfect painting. Its stylization makes it good. However, just super stylizing a game won't always be enough. Cell Damage was a game that I played as a kid, and it is heavily stylized. Similar to Team Fortress 2, which I'll talk about in a moment, except this game is awful. Now, I'm no fan of TF2, but that's because I'm really bad at it. But Cell Damage is just objectively crap. GameSpot said in their review of the HD remake of Cell Damage, the lack of dedicated single-player game, the bland weapon selection, and the repetitive nature of the action undermine the strength of Cell Damage's attractive graphics. So stylization isn't always going to be a surefire win. The rest of the game needs to feel as good to play as it is to look at. I think Grease does a great job with this because what it lacks, it makes up for with the gameplay. So it's sort of boring to just walk for a minute in most games. This is, I think, a part of the game that's not done very well. However, they distract you from the walking by giving you things to look at. They essentially do world building while you're just walking. They fill in the gaps. I think a lot of people wouldn't enjoy the game because they're not going to be so interested in the art. But as an artist, it just works. I've talked enough about that game. Sorry. If you really want to know what I think, you haven't been paying attention, but link in the description to my review. Another way to make stylization work, I think, is to give it a purpose. See, in Grease, not only do they do such a good job that I probably would forgive any fault, but they also give it a purpose. Purpose is another thing that can save stylization. It has to be meaningful, in a sense. The aforementioned Team Fortress 2 is another example of this. It's known for its cartoonish design, which was actually practical for the most part. They wanted each character class to be easily recognizable. Their goal in heavily simplifying the character design was so that even by the silhouette alone, you would know which class a player was. It also took advantage of the lighting engine and took some inspiration from old-timey commercial art. It's a game that is beloved because of its stylization, but its stylization was purposeful. It did something. It helps the gameplay. Other games, such as Celeste, one of my favorites, are an homage to the past, with the cuboid pixel art reminiscent of much of what the NES and Game Boy had to offer. I honestly don't put much stock in nostalgia-driven blasts to the past, if that's all they are, but Celeste blends the simplistic design and the familiar visuals to emphasize the mechanically meticulous gameplay. If the game were detailed and realistic, it may have distracted the focus off of precise input and made it less clear-cut. And the retro-reminiscent art prepared me for the challenge ahead, reminding me of how difficult Mega Man and Metroid were to my younger self. Nintendo as a whole has essentially stylized its brand to show their family-friendly intent. Mario, Pokemon, Kirby, and about half the Zelda titles are lightly styled for bright colors and round edges. Of course, this is to show that it's appropriate for and enticing to kids. But again, the quality of the games and every other aspect prove it to be just as valuable for us older and edgier players. Similarly, LEGO games are stylized after toys. They're clearly for kids. LEGO is an example where design is definitely a marketing scheme, and maybe nothing more. Plus the fact that besides the god tier game LEGO Island, all of them also build off of other existing franchises. But they're fun. They go with stories that we all know, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter. They let us go into a world that we're familiar with in a way that's simple. Overall, I think stylization tends to be a good thing. We had a hard time coming up with stylized games that weren't actually good. Typically it goes well when you're trying something new. However, I couldn't think of one example of a good stylized game that didn't have a purpose for the stylization. I think game devs know that we can smell a sellout, and they want to make something that they would actually enjoy playing anyway. There are so many examples of good games with good stylization. What are some of your favorites? Can you think of any bad ones? Let us know in the comments. I would really like to hear it. As an artsy guy, I would love to check out some new titles that are just and the ones to avoid. Well, you know the drill. If you like this video, then please leave it a like, and if you loved it, subscribe. If you love what we're doing here, you can hit the bell, but really a share means the most. Something that really helps is if you would go on Twitter to this link. I'm not going to put it in the description because then YouTube won't share this video. It does that for some reason. If you go to this link, it'll take you to a tweet that YouTube posted asking what are some small creators that you would love to see get some attention. So if you like what we're doing, you hit that up. We get a few people in there. We may be seeing some growth. We don't do these videos for clout or definitely not for money. We do it because we love it, but it gets very hard to do it when you have other responsibilities and there's no return on the investment. Obviously there's a personal return, but anyway, remember guys, be yourself. Unless you suck.